Hello tea fanatics, welcome to Chef the Tea channel. I'm Bonnie, your fellow tea fanatic. Today's tea topic, why does the best jasmine teas have no jasmine flower in them? But before we begin to answer that question, I have a confession to make. I didn't used to like jasmine teas very much. In fact, sometimes we even look down upon it, right? I'm sure some of you feel the same thing. You know who you are. But the keyword here is used to. Once I'm introduced to the hand-picked and traditionally scented with fresh flower jasmine, complete different story. So the really good quality jasmine teas are like when you brew it, it's like walking through the garden. As soon as the water hits the jasmine, it releases out those fresh fragrance. Chinese have a tradition of scenting tea leaves with flower throughout the millennia, as far as back as like the Han Dynasty. So they would scent teas with jasmine or roses or osmanthus and various flowers. But the jasmine tea that we know and many of us like today is actually has its roots in Fuzhou, in Fujian, China. Started in the mid to late 1800s. That's when they start making them in scale. Now, for example, this is a tea from Fujian. So you can tell this is actually, we call it jasmine needle. It's scented 8 times with fresh flower. Now, we'll get into that, what that means. And teas like this is like incredibly fragrant. And so this tea would be picked in late March, before early April. So called 明前茶. So before the Chinese holiday of Qingming, which usually falls on April 4th. So in late March, they would pick it and they'll finish the tea leaf in the style of a green tea. And then, so why is it important? Because the best green teas are always picked in early spring. And so, but the jasmine flower is not ready. So this tea leaf will be sitting there waiting for the jasmine bloom in the summer. So like this is an 8 times scented jasmine needles, and which means I can actually brew this tea probably like 9-10 times in a gaiwan like this with just a few grams of tea leaf. And even the 9 to 10 steep will still be fragrant. And a good tea, actually, a very quick steep. Even though the color is really, really light, almost, just a hint of yellowish hue, but you can tell a mark of good tea is that the tea is actually very crystal clear. And even though the tea is so light, yet the fragrance, it's an explosion of just like the fresh garden. I wish you can smell this. Now, so how did they get the jasmine fragrance into the tea leaf? So when summer rolls along, right? So good. When summer rolls along, the jasmine's in bloom. The experienced tea pickers will pick the blossoms. Now, you can't pick the ones that are too tight, and you can't pick the one that's open, because if they're too tight, they won't open that night. If it's already open, the fragrance is gone. So once they pick the ones that's just about to open, and they will transport it into the tea scenting facility. Now, during this process is called 养花, which means they have to take really good care of the flower, make sure it's aerated, doesn't get too hot, so that it retains that beautiful fragrance at night when it opens. And so let's do a second steep of this tea. So the first steep is super floral, and so it's actually the subsequent steep is still very floral. This is like the best way that, even in the dead of winter, you can have like smell garden fresh jasmine flower when you have these type of teas. Now, so what do they do at nighttime? So they take the blossoms and the tea leaf that they already previous have and ready, they'll mix them together. The tea master will mix the tea leaf and the flower, a specific ratio, temperature, humidity, and make sure there's good airflow, right? And so they tend it all night. And then in the early mornings, when the tea master believe that the jasmine blossom is giving out its head, and then they will actually sift it, right? And they would go ahead and get rid of the flower they sift out, and then just keep the tea and they'll dry it. So now that's a one scenting process, right? So earlier we said this tea, here's the second steep, just as dark as the first, or same color as the first one. So when they finish the one steep, let it sit, and when they're gonna pick the next batch of fresh flower, right? And assuming the weather is great, because we don't like to pick flowers on a rainy day, And so once there's the next batch of flour is ready, they're going to do a scenting process all over again all night, right? So when you think about it, so 8 times scented or 6 times scented or even the 3 to 4 times scented takes weeks to make. So very, very labor intensive. And so I'm going to show you a dirt steep and how fragrant, it's still very fragrant, and you can tell that each steep on these good teas, you don't actually need a very long steep. Now, if you use a big pot and small amount of tea leaf, yeah, you can steep longer, not a problem. But essentially, right, so the reason why that there is no flour in is because they sift it out. And they'll only keep the tea leaves. So when you brew it, you smell the fragrance, but you don't see the flour. But nonetheless, it's a beautiful cup of tea, and you know, you can enjoy this all day. And so hopefully that answers that question. Thank you very much for watching. Happy tea drinking, and we'll see you next time.